Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing you a universal winch controller that I made. It's supposed to be a one-stop shop for all things winch, whether you want to use instrument panels, buttons, toggle buttons. It has max distance and it even has a super cool feature, rappelling, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. This idea actually came from a combination of things, including the latest Q&A from the developers, where someone had asked if rappelling the cords and ropes and stuff was ever going to be a feature, and funny enough, I actually did have a video where I said how cool that would be, especially in a game where, you know, search and rescue, coming out of helicopters, that type of thing. But the developers said that while probably possible, they won't really be looking into it. So I thought, okay, what if I actually now use the existing handle that we now have to actually send a signal to the winch and tell this thing to go up and down. So it would quite simply be this, where I grab on, the winch starts to roll up, and I'm able to come up into the helicopter, and then let go, and now I'm in the helicopter. And likewise, if I want to go down, grab the thing, and it starts to drop me, and I could just find my way in the hole, and down I go. When I let go, the thing stops. Now, the system works well. I tested it a lot. There are some downsides, primarily if I grab onto this, for example, and then if I'm hovering over the cable anchor, just like you saw there, and I try to release, it'll actually yank the cable right out. So that means you can actually end up dropping to your doom. So let me show you again. Right now it's going down. We let go, pressed it again, starts to go up, but if I press on that, you end up with that type of situation. So you just have to be careful when you're releasing. You definitely want to release anywhere but the cable anchor. For example, you could press here and release. In my other video for kind of my future builds, I alluded to making upgrades and changes to my helicopters, and one of them would actually be this system. So currently, this was rather ingenious. I think back in the day when we didn't have this handle, one could actually grab this remote, sit on the padded seat, and control the winch. And while this system is better because you can't fall off the handle, it requires a much larger space, and it kind of sits you sideways. And even inside the build itself, you can't really have doors. You have to have these seats have kind of a clear space for them even to spawn in. Whereas the handle situation, you can spawn this in pretty much anywhere. It's quite easy. So this system, while great for the time, it definitely has its drawbacks. Another drawback also being the remote, and I'm not going to get into that in this video, but of course with the current setup of the remote kind of being toggle buttons and whatnot, I did actually end up changing this system to work off the up and down arrow keys. So even that kind of fixed things up a little bit, and I'll probably add support for a remote control in my universal winch microcontroller. So this is the thing I've been developing, and it gives us the ability to use a lot of various things here, including buttons, including the handle, including an instrument panel, and a push and a toggle button. I'm going to explain that all in a bit here, but the reason for all this actually is the new Martel and other future helicopter builds. I do want to have a winch, but I don't want to have the whole harness. For something as small as this, the harness ends up being quite difficult to spawn. It's quite heavy, so I wanted to think, alright, what was the best system possible for something like this to be able to use? So here we have our test platform, and I actually did go through and kind of work on this for some time here, but pretty much in addition to the standard kind of pink instrument panel here where we have our length, we have our input, and our lower and raise. So that's kind of the basic thing that I've been working on since I started working in Stormworks. In addition to having that, I just went ahead and added a simple up and down button. I mean, this is like what I said, your basic system, But the nice thing is it's all out of this one microcontroller. So if you don't want to have an instrument panel, you can just go ahead and use this and end up with the smooth dropping function. So if you watch the speed here, it kind of ramps up. And if you watch it come in, it also ramps down as it's coming close. So that is a nice system that I implemented. In addition to that, now I put the max winch length. So 0 allows it to go the full length, but you can also set this. Let's say we put 2, and you could start to lower this thing. And once it hits 2, it'll stop. So even if you had a toggle button, it would no longer go down. Now you can change this, say 4, and then keep on going. But it just gives you a set distance to kind of go down. Now, it's not perfect. I do have to work on certain things. You see how it kind of skipped over. So it's going down. It should come to a complete stop. But that's part of the work in progress and trial period. We end up with stuff like that. Now, here is what I'm sort of proud of, especially considering the handle that we can grab here. Now, keep in mind, all these systems, whether it be the pink one, the red one, the yellow, blue, or the handle, they're all kind of together but also independent, meaning the only one that's fully independent is this guy. But what I mean is, if I use this push button and drop it down, I'm going to be obviously lowered than the winch. Now if I grab onto this, it'll probably continue on down unless I grab it again. So the systems are connected, but they are also independent in a way where if so now we're going to be going back up. But they're connected and independent in a certain way where we do have to kind of be cognizant of that, and definitely not like you'll have to use the system to how it's meant to be used. It's not 100% dummy proof, as none of my creations are. I tend to err on the side of making things that are functional rather than making things that are fully dummy proof. But this is a fairly decent system once you use it. I would just say you have to consider each of these colored systems their own independent. For example, we use toggle, right? Stop it, press toggle again, it's going to go up. But if we stop it and press push, the push is going to keep going up. We press push, it goes down. So you definitely want to have a distance dial somewhere in your helicopter or whatever you're trying to use it for, just because if you do end up using multiple systems, especially the push, the toggle, and the seat, it's going to give you different results. Now, something else that I thought was interesting is, say you're in a helicopter and you're hovering and you set your distance to like whatever 4, or you forgot you had it set, and you hop onto this and you want to go down. Well, you go down, but you're not touching the boat. Imagine you're now suspended and you can't give it a signal to go back up. You can't do anything. Well, actually, automatically, if you're suspended on it for 7 seconds or longer without getting off, it will send you back up. So that was a neat system, kind of a safety that I thought about. I tend to make everything to be able to playable on multiplayer, but also single player. So something like this, you'd put your helicopter in autopilot and you'd be able to rappel down. But what if you forgot you had something like this set, and now you're just dangling beneath and you can't get any way back up? But the second you hop off it, that system resets. So like what I just showed you, if you do go down, and like I said, if you're waiting for 7 seconds, then it will start to go back up. But if you don't, if you just hop off it, then you hop back on, that system is no longer active and you're fully able to head on back up to your helicopter. Now, another thing that I had to do was test this with a survivor. So if we're using someone like this and we're down on the bottom of the boat and we're trying to winch them back up into our helicopter, well, the nice thing is this system allows that. So we don't need this seat. This seat was only there for visual purposes to kind of explain that system. And sure, yeah, you can put the guy here and it's going to kind of flop around. But the nice thing is you actually can grab hold of the handle and rappel with someone. So I found that particularly awesome. Now see, this is the 4 meter thing, and if we don't get off it, it's going to start to take us back up. but if we did get off it, then it would reset. Anyway, it's super nice that we can rappel while suspended on this. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the second you press E or Q, the character will also want to drop. So my recommendation would be that when you're doing this, you actually can drop them onto a seat and then drop yourself, so you end up not falling off or dropping them. So definitely it takes a little bit of, call it, learning. There's a definite learning curve, because while the system, I would say, is quite strong, there are some drawbacks. And I'll tell you, like, if you see the system inside the microcontroller, it's pretty intense. I mean, I do have multiple. This is the original Winch microcontroller, and then I have the keypad, I have the harness slash toggle button, and I have the push button system. So there are multiple systems here working together, and sometimes adding things, you don't get the best system in place. And I actually feel for the developers who kind of said the same thing when they said they have their 10,000 pages of code and it's coded a certain way, and the only way to do certain things is to scrap a portion. So if I were to delete all of this and start from scratch, it'd probably work a little bit better, but for my purposes, I think that this works quite functionally and well, and I'm happy to use this and implement this in my creations. And just like that, I added a remote control operation for frequency 0, so I don't have to have another dial. Of course, you can set your own keypad and frequency if you desire, but here is the completed universal microcontroller, and you could see it now gives us a variety of stuff. And I'm going to add here RC function, so remote function. And if we load this into the game and go to our remote control unit and press the down arrow, you can see it starts to make its way down. If we let go, we do kind of have to feather the controls, so like tapping it once does that, but you can use the arrow keys and make it kind of go up and down pretty nicely. This actually resulted in a lot of tests. I spent a good part of last night and this morning working on this, but I do enjoy R&D, and I do enjoy making systems that work and kind of proof testing them and all that good stuff. So it definitely is something that I enjoy, and what I enjoy even more is then putting it into my creations. But right now you could see that with all this, we can now hop on, and it takes us down a bit. Okay, we grab on again, and it'll take us up, so we can actually rappel. And it's nice we could rappel while holding people. Throw him on the seat, or just take ourselves off it like that, and then you have this working system that you could use. I did make sure that this actually functioned and didn't keep going like we saw earlier in the video. So if we hold that, it stops. If we press that, it doesn't go down. If we press this, it goes back up. If we press this, it goes down only to that 3. So I did a little bit of rejigging, and if we try to keep it going down with the remote, we can't, but we can make it go up with the remote. So it seems that this max length ends up being like a hard stop, which is awesome. And it's, so the one thing is you kind of have to know which way you're going, and right now it's obviously not moving, and then we ended up dropping the thing. So that just comes down to the Q and E being used for both these things. Honestly, what might even give us a bit of a advantage to preventing this from happening would be to give a little bit of separation between the handle and this anchor. And what may even be useful would be to put like a weight piece, just so it's a little more weighted and doesn't flop around as much. And I think that combination would give us that separation. Of course, you could put a light, you could put something else there, even the remote control, but this may work. So there you have it, a little insight to my method of creation, my method of thinking, especially when it comes to R&D and other things like that. there is a lot of thought process that goes into something as simple as this, because if I said, when I kind of thought about this, I was like, all right, I'm going to make a microcontroller that works with the handle and makes us kind of go up and down. But in reality, it did take a decent amount of trials and steps to get to that point. But I'm proud of it. It's awesome to have a working rappelling system that can easily go into these creations as well as all kinds of other creations. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned. I got a lot of creations underway. We got the build challenge. We got all kinds of other stuff on the Discord server. So make sure you drop by. Let me know in the comments what you think of this system. Yes, I know there's about 100,000 different ways of doing it and coding it. That's the nature of coding and the nature of this game, but I think as far as this system goes, I'm pretty happy and it's pretty complete. So thank you all for watching, stay tuned for more, and until next time, happy Stormworksing everyone.